Good morning. It's a beautiful summer morning here, and it's the 28th now of June. Boy, it's been a while since I've done one of these about countries, but as time goes on, I think there's a lot of information out there, and many of you probably want to stop thinking about the coronavirus for a while, but you got to be careful not to, because that's when we engage in behaviors that are inappropriate that could result in an increase in the number of cases and deaths, which is what we're mainly concerned about. So this is one of the figures that I produced for a long time. The only problem I have now with looking at prevalence, so prevalence is the number of cases per 100,000 population. The only issue I have with this right now is that we're getting kind of mixed data. Like, for instance, Sweden, we know, is increasing in its cases. That's the yellow line here. But we haven't had any data on the recoveries for, it's been like probably a month. So this is probably overinflated, because we keep on getting more cases, but we're not getting the numbers that are recovered. In some countries, we get very little data on recovery, like the UK, for instance, and prevalence data are kind of, they're okay. But this kind of gives you a picture that the US is, I think our data tend to be pretty good, although there are people who believe that there may be political reasons for holding back data, but that could occur in any country. So prevalence data is like, it's something I'm not 100% sure of all the time, but in general, we know that there's an uptick in cases, so that's why we're seeing this blue trend going up again. This is Sweden, and here we have Spain and Italy. We see that those countries are doing much better now than we were, although in Spain they still have a lot of cases. So that's not something that I want to toy around with. And today, this is a table of today's, the 28th of June, prevalence, case fatality. Case fatality is the probability of dying if one is infected. You have mortality rate. So I sorted this by mortality rate. So that's the number of deaths per 100,000 population. And I rank order those, of course. So the highest deaths are in Belgium, followed by UK, Spain, and Italy. Then we have Sweden, France, and the US. Our case fatality is still not horrible. I mean, obviously we don't want any people to die, but it's compared to some of these other countries. There's one that's just like out of this world, which is Turkey, which, if I can find it here, it's like unreal. It's like in 25%. Here it is. That's saying give. Now, unless there's something wrong with the data, and the data here come from the most reliable and most valid source that we have available, which is this Johns Hopkins dashboard, where they go through many, many different sites before presenting any data going on here. So let's go back to the data here, and we see that I highlighted Sweden and the United States because those are countries that people are especially Sweden, people are saying, well, they didn't implement the kind of restrictions that other countries have, so they're trying to make sure that they're trying to get herd immunity or something like that. So herd immunity is a very good thing, but there's different ways to achieve it. Usually we achieve it through vaccination, but here we don't have a vaccine yet, so I think that's where, but just make sure you understand what herd immunity is. It's a good thing in general. We need that because there's a lot of people who cannot get vaccinated when vaccines are available. So we still have this Vietnam with 0 deaths. Now, again, we have to take all this with a grain of salt. And I know there's been articles written about Vietnam and how strict they are, and I hope this is true. But I just have to, I don't trust anybody these days, honestly, in terms of their data. But this is the best we have, right? All right, so best we have. So I always look at what the proportion of the population above 65 is and what the population density is. So this is, if you haven't seen my video in a while, this orange is the proportion of the population 65 and above. The blue is the number of hospitals per 1,000 population, and this yellowish type line down here, this population density. The gray line is the case fatality, so probability of dying. You see Turkey has this really high one, but what's interesting is well, in their case, they actually have a lower population above 65, so I'm not really sure what, it kind of bucks the trend in my sense. But in general, what we have here is that the more we have hospitals per per 1,000 that mirrors the population of individuals 65 and above, the better we do. So the turkey's kind of like an unusual case in some ways, because there's not so much of a mirroring of the proportion. Well, there is a mirroring of the proportion of the population 65 and above, but there may be other factors involved there as well. So that shows what's going on there. And then I had this index that I created, which is the ratio of hospital beds per 1,000 population to the proportion of the population 65 and above. And you can see there's an inverse relation here with case fatality, which is in red. So the better, basically it's saying the better one is prepared for problems when you have a larger population, 65 and above, the better you do in terms of preventing deaths from, at least from the coronavirus. And I ran those as regressions just to see what's going on here. So in this case, this is using the process macro. This is a regression analysis looking at the predicting, log case fatalities. I have to log transform it because of the way the errors, the residuals look. They didn't have a constant variance. So I log transform it. That actually improved it a lot. So, but in terms of prediction, we have, as we expect, hospitals per 1,000 individuals are negatively or inversely related to this log case fatality. And then proportion of the population 65 and above is positively related to log case fatality. These p-values, these are probabilities of a type 1 error. These p-values are very nice. And the interaction was not significant. So I wanted to see if there was a difference in terms of, and the interaction here was proportion of population 65 and above multiplied times the population density. So density, I cut it in half. Here, I believe I did a median split. So we had, that means cutting right in the middle. If we were to put all the densities from lowest to highest, find the point in the middle. So we cut it there. There was no relation there. So I did control for population density in this model. And then I ran it again here with my HB65 indicator, again, which is the ratio of hospital beds per 1,000 to the proportion of population 65 and above, and we see that there is a significant inverse relation between the HB65 and then case fatality. So those are interesting stuff for today. So is the situation getting better? I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, all I can tell you is that the countries that are doing best are those who are prepared for such a catastrophe. In terms of new cases, we're getting a lot more cases everywhere because people are going out and they're interacting, and hopefully, though, that won't turn into deaths. So the best case scenario would be that if people get infected and become immune before the vaccine comes, but don't get sick. That's what I'd love for everybody, to be able to be healthy and just become immune to this pestilence. All right, well, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.